Hi everyone, welcome to this Excel coffee break. So these coffee breaks are just little one-on-one sessions with myself and you. Just think of it as I'm just sitting at your desk and you've got this question about Excel and I just want to sort of try and help you out over a coffee. You bought me a nice latte, so let's get cracking. So what's this one about? Well, this one's some basic Excel skills that everyone should have, but not everyone has. That sort of clear understanding between absolute and relative addressing when using formulas. So basically this means what does that $A, $1 do, and what is it different from A1 when you're talking about cells. So I'm just going to spend sort of 10 minutes just going through that and showing you some of the basics to help you with your formulas. Let's get cracking. So what I'm going to do is just go into a cell and I'm just going to point, just take a formula and just say equals this cell here. And you can see it's saying there B2. So just by doing that and OK, you can see it's 1. Now, what that looks like it's saying is B2, sorry. So surely if I go and copy that and put it into a different cell, that should say B2, but it doesn't. It now says B4. So why is that? Well, the reason is it doesn't have those dollars. Without those dollars, it is what they call relative addressing. So if I go back to here, this is saying B2, but it's not really. It's a secret. What it's really saying is relative to this cell, it's going to be B2. So it's actually go back 1, 2, 3, 4 cells and then up 1 cell. So that means if you copy this one, so let's just copy it over to here and do exactly the same thing. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then up 1 cell. So it's really, this one is really doing the same thing and it's looking here. Let me prove it. I'm going to put in number 9 and there you go. The reason being is that C6 is the same, in effect, relative address to the cell that it's in as the one above. So that is the reason why. Let's just get rid of all of these colours. So that's the reason why if we have here, it's going from here to B2, i.e. it's going back 4 and up 1. If we drag down, it does exactly the same thing. So this one, 4, up 1, 4, up 1. So that is relative addressing. If you don't see a dollars, it's saying, it's not giving you a cell address, it's saying a relative position from where your formula is. Same thing here. If I say in here and point it to this cell, so this is no longer, although it's saying B2, what it's really saying is 1 over, 1 to the left, which is why when you drag down, these are all going to the same thing. So this is pointing to B9, which is 1 to the left. So that is what they call relative addressing. It's relative to the cell you're in. But there's another sort that you can do, which is called absolute addressing. And the way you do that is you do exactly the same thing. Click on here and click on the cell. But now we need to put those dollars in. Those dollars say that it becomes an absolute address. You can do that just by clicking anywhere in the cell reference itself, the cell address that you've got, and hitting F4. So let me do F4 and you'll see it'll toggle the dollars. First of all, it will give you dollars against the B and the 2. Then it will do it with just the 2, and then it will do it with just the B. And then if I hit F4 again, it removes them. So you've got all the different combinations of using those dollar signs. Now what do those dollar signs? Now think of them, don't think of them as dollars, think of them as an anchor. So if I have a dollar against, what it's saying is, this first dollar is saying anchor to whatever follows it, so column B. And this one, this dollar is saying anchor to row 2. So that means it's anchored to row to B2, so it's anchored to B2, rather than being a relative address from where it is. So that means if I copy this now, that absolute address, the absolute address is tethered, is anchored on both the B and the 2, means if wherever I go, it's always going to look at the same thing. So it's still doing the $B2. Still doing the $B2. Now using that knowledge, we can start doing some clever stuff. What you can do And let's go over here. So what we're looking at here is what we want to do is we want to add whatever's in the same column with whatever's in the same row. So this one, we want it to be 101. It's the 1 plus the 100. And for this one, we want it to be 3 plus the 300, so 303. So how can we do that in a single formula and drag and drop it? Well, if we do it as we were talking about with just the regular addressing, we'd do that plus that. Now that works fine for that, but then if I copy that cell, you can see it's not working anymore because it's using that relative addressing. So this was going up to and going across to. So this one's going up to, which is a 0, and across to, which is a 0. Double click on it, you can see there. So the blue is pointing above and the green is pointing to the left. So what we need to do is we need to use the absolute addressing on certain elements. And this is where that F4, the toggling between, is really useful. Let's go back into this and think about what we want to do. Well, wherever we are in here, so first of all, the K2 is pointing here. What we want to do is we want to do relative addressing. So we want to be in the same column, but we always want it to be locked in that row 2. So anchored to 2. So you can do that by clicking in K2 and then do F4. Now we don't want this because we don't want it to be anchored to K, because when we're over in the next cell over, we want it to be on L. So we don't want the K, but we do want the anchor on 2. We always want it to be looking at row 2. And the opposite's true for the next one. So I4 is pointing to here. So F4 toggles around all the different ones. So we don't want both. We don't want it to lock on 4 because when we go down, we want it to look at the next rows down. We do want it to lock always on column I. So let's just prove that and copy it. And there you can see it's going to 4 because it's still locked on column I, and 3 there because it's still locked on row 2. So that means that when we drag this down, it all works, and when we drag it over, it all works. So that is a very simple way of doing that, of locking it down. And when you can think about what you want to anchor, what you want to fix as an absolute address, whether it's row 2 or column I. So let's now do something very clever. What I want to do here is I want to take the sum, so of whatever's in here, in this column D. So sum, and I want to do that. Now, but what I want to do on the next one down is I want it, instead of this looking at all of those, I in fact want it to say, on this one, I want it to take all of these, and then on this one, all of these. So what I want to do is I want to fix it so it only goes down to onto 11, sorry, but I want it to look across. So what we're going to do is use relative addressing. If I were to just drag it down, you see it doesn't work how we want to, because each time, remember, this is all no dollars, there are no anchors, so it's always looking across to, and it's taking the next 10 cells. So same here, across to and taking the next 10 cells. So that's why you've got those strange numbers coming in. But instead, what we're going to do is we're going to take one of these addresses as fixed and one of these as relative. Now we always want it to go to D11, so from D2 to D11, or from D3 to D11. So we're going to go to the D11 and lock that. We fix it by hitting F4 and keep it exactly like that. And now when we drag down, you can see that this one is looking at these. This one is looking at the 4. Because what it's doing is it's saying D8, so that's not anchored, it's looking across 2, but it's always going down to D11. So wherever we are, it always goes down to D11. So there's a very clever way of making one part of a range of cells locked and the other one not. Now that's a very quick explanation of how things work with absolute and relative addressing. Leave in the comments anything if you want me to sort of explain something further. I'd be delighted to hear about any sort of other problems you've got around that. But for now, thanks for watching. I hope that sort of just gave you a little bit of an insight into something that, although it's quite basic, a lot of people actually miss the real beauty of it and the power of it. So why not, if you found it useful, why not like it? I'd really appreciate if you subscribe, get my numbers up, and of course if you subscribe I think you get notifications and things like that, so you're always on top of the latest videos I do. And why not share? Just send it out to all your friends. Sharing is the most beautiful thing, unless of course it's the last piece of chocolate cake, in which case never share. Anyway, cheers guys, speak to you soon.